Some relationships don't collapse. They erode you, slowly, quietly. And almost always with one of 6 types of women men are naturally drawn to without understanding why. Maybe she felt familiar. Maybe she felt exciting. Maybe she felt like someone you needed to save. But if you walked out feeling confused, drained, or unlike yourself, you're about to understand why. That's why today, I'm revealing the 6 types of women men must avoid, and the signs that expose them long before the chaos begins. This isn't about blaming women. It's about finally understanding the psychology behind the connections that derail your life. Stick with me. You're about to gain the clarity most men never get. You and I both know this. Men rarely fall for the wrong woman because they're foolish. They fall because something far deeper is at play. Patterns written into them long before they ever learned how to choose. Most men don't realize how much of their romantic life is shaped by early imprinting, the kind that makes familiarity feel like attraction. A certain tone of voice, a kind of softness, a hint of chaos, even a wounded innocence. These things can trigger memories they don't consciously remember, but still respond to. And when that feeling kicks in, logic fades fast. There's also the rush. The dopamine pull that comes when someone sparks excitement, desire, or emotional intensity. The brain loves stimulation, not stability. And that's why a man can meet a woman who feels electric and assume that feeling means destiny, when really it's just chemistry wearing a mask. Attraction becomes a fog. And inside that fog, the red flags aren't invisible. You just aren't looking for them because part of you wants the high more than the truth. But here's the reality most men never hear. The women who drain you the most aren't evil. They simply have emotional patterns that pull you in and wear you out. Patterns you mistake for compatibility. Patterns you confuse with connection. You're not wrong for wanting to love. You're only untrained in recognizing what kind of woman you're letting close. I once coached a man who fell for a woman who lit up every room she entered. She was magnetic, exciting, impossible to ignore. And slowly, she became the storm he couldn't escape. When everything finally collapsed, he told me, "I wish someone had warned me earlier." That sentence sits with me to this day. Attraction is instinct. Selection is strategy. You can't control who pulls you in, but you can control who you allow into your life. Number 1, the chronic drama queen. The woman whose life is a constant whirlwind of chaos, intensity, and emotional fires she never stops fueling. She's bright, magnetic, and full of energy, the kind that makes you feel alive the moment she walks in. But behind that spark is a reality most men don't see until they're already trapped. She doesn't just live in drama, she needs it. It's the oxygen she breathes. Her world runs on what I call the chaos dopamine cycle. Every emotional spike gives her a rush, and every quiet moment feels like withdrawal. Stillness makes her anxious. Peace feels unfamiliar. So she stirs something, anything, to create the feeling she craves. That's why her relationships with friends, coworkers, and even family are always explosive. Not because she's unlucky, but because turmoil is her comfort zone. The signs are clearer than you think. First, everywhere she goes, conflict follows. It's always a fight with a best friend, a heated argument with a sibling, a feud at work, a misunderstanding with an ex. The details change, but the pattern never does. Second, the smallest inconvenience turns into a full-blown catastrophe. You're late 5 minutes, suddenly she's spiraling. You didn't reply fast enough, she's convinced you're pulling away. Third, her presence slowly fills your life with negativity. Gossip, tension, and emotional fatigue that drains your energy before you even realize it's happening. And you, unintentionally, become cast in one of 2 roles: the hero she expects you to be, or the villain she blames when the chaos has nowhere else to go. Either way, you're in the story she's writing, not the life you're choosing. When you date a woman who thrives on turmoil, you don't get a relationship, you get episodes. You get unpredictable highs followed by exhausting lows. And worst of all, you lose your peace without noticing you gave it away. A woman who thrives on chaos will eventually treat you as the source of her next episode. So pay attention to how she treats the world around her, because sooner or later, that same emotional storm will find its way to your front door. Number 2, the manipulative, nice girl. She is the kind of woman every man thinks he wants. Soft-spoken, attentive, supportive, and impossibly sweet. She makes you feel chosen in a way that seems pure, harmless, safe. But what most men never realize until it's too late is that her sweetness isn't the danger. It's the camouflage. This woman doesn't control you with aggression. She controls you with tenderness. Instead of shouting, she whispers. Instead of demanding, she suggests. Instead of pushing, she gently nudges you into guilt, obligation, and self-doubt. The trap she sets is subtle, and that's why it works. She starts with what I call micro-love bombing, not the exaggerated, overwhelming kind you see from overt manipulators. No, her version is quieter, more refined. She studies what you need emotionally and mirrors it back to you in small but calculated doses. She builds the image of the perfect partner, the one who gets you, supports you, understands you. And just when you start to relax into that comfort, the conditioning begins. You'll hear phrases like, "I guess I just care too much," or "I never thought you'd treat me like this after everything I've done for you." They sound innocent, but they're not. They're emotional levers designed to make you question yourself and work harder to keep her comfortable. Her compliments shift too. They become backhanded, subtle jabs disguised as affection. "You look great today. I was starting to think you didn't care anymore." It sounds soft, but it lands sharp. And each time, your confidence erodes just a little more. In conflict, she always plays the fragile one, the misunderstood one, the one who only tried to love you. Her victimhood is strategic. It puts you into the role of comforter, and her into the role of the person you feel responsible for. Before long, you aren't loving her. You're managing her. And that is the point. A woman who uses kindness as a weapon will never love you, only manage you. The only way to see her clearly is to test consistency. Real kindness stays stable. It doesn't turn into pressure the moment you stop performing. Pay attention to whether her sweetness stands on its own, or whether it comes with strings you can't quite see but always feel tightening. Number 3, the serial social climber. She's elegant, polished, and effortlessly charming, the kind of woman who makes you feel important simply by giving you her attention. She knows how to laugh at the right moment, how to lean in when you speak, how to make you believe she sees something special in you. But her interest isn't in who you are. It's in what being with you allows her to access. This is the woman who treats relationships like stepping stones. She has an instinct for status, not just wealth, but influence, visibility, and opportunity. In her world, people aren't partners. They're ladders. It begins innocently. She asks about your work, your goals, your lifestyle. She compliments your drive, your ambition, the way you carry yourself. But soon, the pattern emerges. First, she becomes unusually curious about your connections. She wants to know who you know, how close you are, and what they do. She lights up when you mention someone successful. Second, her attention sharpens whenever she sees that your life contains access, exclusive events, influential circles, opportunities she can't create on her own. Third, her expectations don't match her effort. She wants the luxury, the comfort, the elevated lifestyle, but contributes very little beyond presence and charm. The truth is, she's not building a relationship with you. She's positioning herself. She's aligning with your success because proximity to you elevates her image. And the moment you stop rising or stop opening doors, she starts drifting toward the next source of momentum. This kind of woman rarely leaves loudly. She just becomes slightly colder, slightly busier, slightly more distant, until she's already halfway into the life of another man who can offer her a higher rung to climb. If she loves the doors, You can open more than the man who opens them. Step back. The way to see her clearly is simple. Strip away the glamour. Take her somewhere low-key, quiet, ordinary. Remove the spotlight. If her enthusiasm drops when the status disappears, you have your answer. Genuine connection thrives in simplicity. Self-interest dies there. Number 4, the perpetual victim. She isn't loud. She isn't chaotic. She isn't manipulative in obvious ways. In fact, she often appears gentle, wounded, and misunderstood, someone you feel naturally compelled to protect. And that's exactly why so many men fall into her orbit without realizing the emotional trap hidden beneath her softness. She is committed not to growth, but to her pain. Her identity is built around being wronged. By life, by exes, by friends, by fate. She is the center of an endless string of unfortunate events, all of which somehow happened to her, never because of her. And while her stories may be heartbreaking, there is always one constant. She is never responsible for anything. This pattern is more than bad luck. It's a psychological loop. Learned helplessness keeps her stuck in the same emotional place, repeating the same wounds with different people. Trauma bonding makes her cling to anyone who offers comfort, and seeking sympathy becomes her way of maintaining connection, not through accountability, not through self-awareness, through pity. The signs reveal themselves slowly. First, every past relationship ended because the other person was cruel, selfish, unstable, or heartless. She has never once said, "I played a part in it." Second, every conflict in her life, from missed deadlines to broken friendships, is someone else's fault. There's always a reason, always a villain. Third, her life story is a loop of "you won't believe what happened to me again," delivered in a tone that keeps you oscillating between protecting her and worrying for her. At first, you feel noble stepping in to support her, but soon you become the emotional crutch she relies on, the person responsible for filling the void she refuses to confront. And when you can't fix everything for her, because no one can, you become the next source of disappointment, the next culprit in her ongoing narrative of pain. A woman invested in her pain cannot invest in a relationship, so watch how she responds to gentle feedback. A woman ready for growth will reflect. A woman rooted in victimhood will deflect. And that simple distinction tells you everything you need to know. Number 5, the commitment phobe in disguise. She isn't avoidant in the obvious sense. She doesn't run from affection. In fact, she gives you just enough of it to keep you hooked. She'll hold your hand, stay up all night talking, melt into you when you pull her close, and for a moment, you feel chosen, wanted, even prioritized. But don't mistake that warmth for stability. What she really wants is the feeling of connection, not the responsibility that comes with sustaining it. Her emotional pattern is rooted in fear. Fear of being trapped, fear of losing her autonomy, fear of letting someone get close enough to see parts of her she can't control. So she crafts a rhythm that allows her to feel intimacy without ever surrendering to it. A rhythm that keeps you guessing. The signs are subtle at first. First, her behavior swings between intensity and distance. One day she's glued to you, texting nonstop, wanting to see you, making plans. The next day she drifts, suddenly overwhelmed, suddenly busy, suddenly needing space. Second, she avoids defining anything. Ask her what she wants and she'll say, "Let's just enjoy the moment," or "Why rush things?" It sounds relaxed, but it's actually evasive. Third, every story from her past involves relationships that were almost something, situationships that just didn't work out, or partners who were too much too soon. What she really loves is the chase, the excitement that comes before things get real. When you're slightly out of reach, she's fully engaged. The moment you show up with clarity and consistency, she pulls back. Not because you're wrong for her, but because seriousness activates her fear. And that's the part most men misunderstand. They try harder. They become the pursuer. They start proving themselves, fixing things, smoothing the dynamic. But the more you chase her, the safer she feels running. When her affection comes and goes, it's not your worth. It's her fear. So speak plainly. Call out the inconsistency. Set boundaries she can't blur. And most importantly, never chase a woman whose pattern requires you to shrink your needs just to keep her close. Number 6. The overly controlling perfectionist. She appears put together, thoughtful, and deeply attentive. She remembers the little things, how you like your coffee, the exact way you fold your shirts, the tone you use when you're stressed. At first, this attention feels flattering. It feels like care. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, it shifts into something else. Correction, supervision, and control wrapped in soft language. Her sense of safety depends on order, on things being done the right way, her way. Underneath the polished exterior is a woman whose anxiety drives her to manage every detail she can touch. And when you enter her world, that impulse doesn't stop at her home, her schedule, or her routines. It extends to you. The early signs are easy to overlook. First, she begins micromanaging the smallest choices you make, how you dress, how you plan your day, even how you speak. It starts with suggestions but quickly turns into constant adjustments. Second, she disguises control as concern. You'll hear things like, "I just want what's best for you," or "I'm only saying this because I care." The words are gentle, but the expectation behind them is rigid. Third, the ratio of criticism to appreciation shifts. You find yourself hearing more about what you're doing wrong than what you're doing right. And no matter how hard you try, there's always something that could be improved. Over time, her standards, impossibly high, ever-changing, become the measure you're graded against. And what starts as helpfulness becomes suffocating. The more you adapt, the more she tightens her grip. Until eventually, you begin losing pieces of yourself just to maintain peace. The most dangerous part is that she truly believes she's helping. She doesn't see her control as control. She sees it as love, structure, and guidance. And if you ever push back, she interprets it as ingratitude or carelessness. Control dressed as care is still control. The only way to protect yourself is to set boundaries early, clearly, and firmly. If she respects them, there's hope. If she resists, argues, or reframes your limits as a personal attack, then you're not in a partnership. You're in a system she's trying to run. You've seen 6 very different women, each with her own patterns, her own charms, her own shadows. On the surface, they seem unrelated. One thrives on chaos. One manipulates through sweetness. One hunts status. One clings to pain. One fears commitment. One controls through perfection. Different stories, different behaviors, different ways of drawing a man in and wearing him down. But beneath all those differences lies a single, unmistakable thread: emotional imbalance. Each of these women pulls you into a dynamic where you're not meeting in the middle. You're compensating, you're rescuing, you're fixing, you're proving, you're absorbing, you're shrinking. Instead of standing beside her as an equal, you end up becoming a character in the emotional script she's been living long before she met you. And that script forces you into one of 3 roles: the fixer, the rescuer, or the provider of emotional energy she can't generate on her own. It feels flattering at first, being needed, being wanted, being important, but slowly, inevitably, it drains you. Because no relationship can stay healthy when one person becomes the fuel keeping the other person emotionally afloat. These patterns linger because they target a man's deepest instincts: the desire to protect, to save, to guide, to be the steady presence someone can count on. But those instincts can turn against you when they're triggered by the wrong woman, one who doesn't grow with you, but leans on you. One who doesn't share responsibility, but hands it to you. One who doesn't build partnership, but demands emotional labor disguised as love. You don't need to change these women. You don't need to diagnose them. You don't need to fix their past or rewrite their stories. You only need to recognize that not every woman who pulls you in is meant to walk with you. You don't need to change women. You need to choose wisely. Attraction is instinct. Selection is identity. And the moment you learn to evaluate patterns instead of chasing feelings, you shift from being a man who reacts to a man who leads his own life with clarity. You've walked through 6 patterns that drain a man's strength, disrupt his peace, and erode his sense of self. And if there's one truth I want you to carry with you long after this video ends, it's this: loving someone isn't the hard part. Choosing someone who protects your peace, respects your boundaries, and matches your emotional maturity, that's where most men fall. Women aren't the enemy, not the dramatic ones, not the sweet manipulators, not the social climbers, not the wounded souls, not the avoidant flirters, not the perfectionists. None of them are villains. They simply carry emotional dynamics that may not align with the life you're trying to build. They aren't bad. They're just not right for a man who values stability, clarity, and reciprocity. And you deserve those things more than you realize. Because as a man, you are taught to endure, to tolerate, to push through discomfort and call it strength. But real strength isn't staying in situations that drain you. It's recognizing when a connection is costing you more than it gives back. It's knowing when to step away. Not from love itself, but from versions of love that require you to abandon your peace to keep the relationship alive. Every red flag you learn to recognize is a piece of your future you're protecting. Every boundary you set is a safeguard for the life you're trying to build. And every moment you choose clarity over chaos is a moment you reclaim control over your emotional world. So I'll leave you with a question, and I want you to answer it honestly in the comments. Which of these 6 patterns have you met in your own life, and what did it teach you about yourself? If this video helped you see relationships more clearly, subscribe to the channel. This space exists to help men navigate modern love with insight, confidence, and authority. Like the video if you want more men to avoid the mistakes you've already survived. Share it with someone who needs the wake-up call. And join the conversation below. Your experiences might be the message another man needs today. Walk forward with clarity. Choose with intention. And never. You've probably met her, the woman who made you feel like you were finally enough, until every moment with her became a test you couldn't pass. You started doubting yourself, losing sleep, losing focus, losing control. And you still can't explain how she did it. The truth is, there are 8 types of women built to make men chase, overgive, and eventually break. They don't ruin you overnight. They do it slowly, softly, until you forget who you were before them. In this video, I'll walk you through every one of them, what they look like, how they think, and how to recognize the danger before it begins. There's something no one tells men about relationships. Manipulation rarely looks like manipulation. It looks like affection, like vulnerability, like someone who just needs a little help. That's how you get hooked. Not through deceit, but through empathy. And the more you care, the deeper she goes. This video isn't about women versus men. It's about seeing the invisible patterns that keep men stuck in emotional quicksand. Because once you understand what's really happening, you can't be played again. If you're ready to see what most men never notice, hit like and subscribe. You're about to gain clarity that changes everything. Tell me in the comments. Do you believe manipulation always starts with intention, or can it be unconscious? Keep watching. Because the first kind of woman we'll uncover hides her control behind something every man misunderstands as love. Number 1. The spendthrift. She doesn't love you. She loves the feeling of spending your money. You'll meet her when you're doing well enough to stand on your own feet, but still trying to build something solid. She'll appear fascinated by your drive, your plans, your ambition. But soon, you'll notice something subtle. Her affection grows only when you're spending. A dinner, a trip, a little surprise that always turns into a statement piece. Every moment of connection comes with a price tag. Spendthrift women speak the language of money as a tool of validation. In their minds, love is not a bond, it's a transaction that must constantly prove itself through gifts, indulgence, and upgrades. They don't say, "I care for you." They say, "If you cared, you would." And each time you comply, you unknowingly step deeper into her design, a cycle of guilt and reward that makes you equate generosity with worth. At first, you tell yourself it's normal. After all, you want to give to make her happy. But giving becomes expectation. Expectation becomes pressure. And pressure becomes resentment. She will not stop. Because it's never about the object, it's about control. The spendthrift tests your limits to measure your devotion. Every time you say yes, you teach her how far she can push. You'll start to feel it. That silent dread when your phone buzzes with her message, knowing it means another little thing she really needs. Your love becomes a financial treadmill. You run, you pay, but you never move forward. Here's the truth most men learn too late. A woman who only knows how to receive will never know how to value. She doesn't want a partner, she wants an ATM with emotions. And when the account runs dry, financially or emotionally, she'll simply move on to the next source of love. When a woman's affection depends on what you give, not who you are, you're not in love. You're being drained. Slowly, quietly, completely. And number 2, the liar. Every lie, no matter how small, leaves a scar. And the worst kind of liar isn't the one who invents stories. It's the one who bends reality just enough to make you question your own. At first, she seems honest. She shares little confessions to appear transparent. Stories about her past, her crazy ex, the struggles she's finally over. But you'll start to notice details that don't align. Timelines shift, stories change. You'll catch her contradicting herself, and when you point it out, she'll laugh, accuse you of overthinking, or worse, make you feel guilty for noticing. That's how the trust assassin operates. She kills your confidence one doubt at a time. You start wondering if you're too sensitive, too paranoid, too demanding. Meanwhile, she hides behind charm and emotional appeal, mastering the art of the half-truth. She'll tell you enough to sound sincere, but never the full picture, because full honesty removes her control. A relationship built on half-truths becomes a battlefield of confusion. You'll start checking her words against her actions, her phone against her promises, and each time you confront her, she'll shift the spotlight. Suddenly, it's your fault for not trusting her. You'll apologize, not because you're wrong, but because you're tired. That's how lies work. They don't explode, they erode. And when you realize you can't tell what's real anymore, it's already too late. You've been emotionally disarmed. The liar thrives in your uncertainty. She knows that as long as you're busy doubting yourself, you won't question her. She doesn't crave love. She craves control over your perception. If you ever find yourself rewriting your memories to make her story make sense, stop. Truth doesn't need your defense. A woman who values honesty won't make you feel insane for asking for it. If you start doubting your memory more than her story, walk away. Because when trust dies, love doesn't die with it. It turns into fear. And living in fear of the person you love isn't romance. It's slow emotional suicide. Number 3, the chronic flirt. She walks into a room, and instantly it tilts toward her. The laughter gets louder, the eyes follow, and she glows brighter in the spotlight. You think it's charm, at first, but soon you realize she's not connecting with people, she's collecting reactions. A woman addicted to attention isn't flirting with others because she wants them. She's flirting because she needs to feel wanted. Every smile she gets is a drop of dopamine, a hit of reassurance that she's still desirable. And when you're the man in her life, you're not her partner. You're her anchor of supply, the one expected to keep feeding that need. She'll call it harmless. She'll tell you, "I'm just friendly." But deep down, she knows the power it gives her. The glances, the compliments, the lingering messages, they keep her ego inflated. It's not about betrayal in the physical sense, it's emotional gambling. She bets your peace of mind against her momentary high. You'll feel it. That tension in your chest when she laughs too long at another man's joke. The way you start questioning whether you're being jealous or just observant. But that's the trap. You begin to police your own discomfort, convincing yourself you're overreacting. Meanwhile, she keeps feeding on the validation around her, acting shocked when you finally confront her. The chronic flirt doesn't cheat because she's tempted. She cheats because she's empty. She needs admiration to fill the silence of her own insecurity. And when she stops getting it from you, she'll look elsewhere, not out of malice, but out of habit. You can't love someone who uses attention as oxygen. You'll never give enough because she doesn't want your affection. She wants everyone's. And no matter how hard you try, you'll always be competing with the world. A woman who needs constant validation will never be loyal. Not because she cheats, but because she's addicted to attention. Love should bring peace. But with her, love feels like a performance you're always one applause away from losing. Number 4, the materialistic woman. With her, love is never about connection. It's about conversion. Every moment, every gesture, every conversation eventually circles back to value. Not emotional value, but material worth. She doesn't ask how your day was. She asks how much your day made. You'll notice it early, but mistake it for ambition. She'll talk about standards, security, and comfort. Words that sound reasonable until you realize they're all synonyms for money. To her, affection is a form of currency, and relationships are marketplaces. You pay in effort, time, and gifts. She repays you in attention, intimacy, and temporary warmth. It's a trade, not a bond. The danger with women like this isn't their greed, it's their emptiness. They measure love in possessions because they've never felt anything deeper. When they say, "I just want to feel safe," what they really mean is, "I want guarantees." And guarantees, in their world, are bought, not built. She'll praise you when you give and withdraw when you don't. Her moods fluctuate with your wallet. When you're generous, she's affectionate. When you slow down, she turns cold. The warmth you thought was love is conditional, powered by transaction, not connection. What makes it worse is how easy it is to fall for. Because giving feels good. It feeds your instinct to provide. You'll think you're showing love, but what you're really doing is paying rent in someone else's illusion of security. Over time, you'll sense the hollowness, the silence after a gift is unwrapped, the lack of gratitude that follows your efforts. You'll start to realize that no amount of money can buy the one thing she's incapable of giving: emotional reciprocity. You can't buy love, but she'll make you believe you can, until your wallet is empty and your soul follows. When a woman values things over people, she will eventually trade you for a better offer. Because in her world, love isn't sacred, it's negotiable. And you're just the current bid. The awakening comes when you finally stop trying to prove your worth through what you can give. Because real connection doesn't come with receipts, it comes with respect. Number 5, the what's mine is mine type. You'll recognize her by how quickly everything becomes about her. Her needs, her plans, her comfort. She might call it independence, but what it really is selfishness dressed up as self-love. At first, it's refreshing. She seems confident, assertive, strong. But once you get close, that confidence turns into territory. Every part of your relationship exists to serve her. This kind of woman believes in equality, as long as she's winning. She'll expect your time, your effort, your loyalty, and your emotional support. But when it's her turn to reciprocate, she suddenly becomes too busy, too tired, or not good at expressing emotions. You'll start giving more, just to keep the peace. And without realizing it, you'll find yourself in a one-way relationship, where compromise only flows in one direction. She'll use guilt as her currency. If you ever ask for something back, attention, empathy, or simply balance, she'll twist it into selfishness on your part. "Why can't you just support me?" she'll say, while never noticing that you've been doing exactly that all along. The more you give, the more invisible you become. Your kindness doesn't inspire her, it enables her. Soon, you'll be walking on eggshells, trying not to disrupt her comfort. You'll apologize for being tired. You'll justify her coldness. You'll convince yourself that maybe this is what maturity looks like. Two people focusing on their own needs. But deep down, you'll know you're slowly disappearing. Love cannot survive when one person is always taking and never giving. It suffocates under imbalance. And with her, imbalance is the foundation. She doesn't want partnership. She wants submission disguised as devotion. You'll feel the exhaustion long before you admit it. That quiet ache of knowing you're investing in something that gives you nothing back. And one day, it will click. This isn't love. It's servitude. Love can't breathe when it's one-sided. And with her, it always is. When you finally stop feeding her sense of entitlement, she'll call you selfish. Let her. Because in truth, you've just remembered how to protect your own peace. Number 6, the insecure woman. At first, her need for reassurance feels sweet, even flattering. She wants to know where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. You tell yourself it's because she cares. But soon, you'll notice it's not curiosity. It's control. Every question hides a fear. Every fear becomes a rule. And every rule quietly reshapes your life. The insecure woman doesn't build walls to keep others out. She builds cages to keep you in. Her mind is a battlefield of comparisons. Every woman she sees is a threat. Every compliment you give is a potential betrayal. You'll start defending yourself for things you haven't done, apologizing for feelings you've never had. She'll say, "I just need to feel secure." But what she really means is, "I need you to shrink so I can breathe." Her love comes with surveillance. She'll scroll through your phone, dissect your messages, monitor your tone. When you reassure her, she'll calm down for a moment. But the peace never lasts, because insecurity can't be satisfied. It only resets. What she seeks isn't truth. It's control over her anxiety, and she'll use your loyalty as the cure. What begins as tenderness soon becomes tension. You'll feel the air grow heavy around her questions. You'll start hesitating before answering your phone, not because you're hiding anything, but because you know she'll read meaning into every pause. Slowly, your world narrows until all that matters is keeping her calm. That's not love. That's captivity. Here's the painful truth. You can't fix someone's insecurity by proving your innocence. Because the problem isn't your actions, it's her fear. And no amount of love can heal a mind that feeds on doubt. You'll try to save her, to show her she's safe. But she'll only pull you deeper into her storm. Until one day, you'll realize you've become her evidence, not her partner. You can't save someone who's drowning in their own fear. They'll only pull you under. When love becomes a constant defense, you're no longer in a relationship. You're serving a sentence. And the only way out is to stop apologizing for things you didn't do and start reclaiming your peace. Number 7. The narcissist. She shines so bright at first that you mistake her glow for warmth. Everything about her feels magnetic. Her confidence, her presence, the way she makes you feel seen. But what you don't realize is that she's not looking at you. She's looking through you to admire her own reflection in your eyes. The narcissistic woman doesn't fall in love. She recruits. You're not her partner. You're her audience. She needs admiration the way others need oxygen. Every compliment, every act of attention, every moment you spend worshipping her, it feeds her sense of superiority. And the moment you stop clapping, she starts to crumble. That's when the cruelty begins. She'll belittle you with precision, then follow it with praise just sharp enough to keep you hooked. 1 minute you're her hero, the next you're her disappointment. It's not random. It's design. The constant shift between affection and rejection creates confusion, and confusion keeps you obedient. The mirror queen thrives on the illusion of power. She'll always compare, always compete, always demand that the spotlight stays on her. And when you try to talk about your needs, she'll make it about herself. You'll start apologizing for existing outside her narrative. She doesn't destroy you out of hate. She does it to keep her reflection clean. Because in her world, vulnerability is weakness and empathy is leverage. She'll borrow your emotions, twist them into proof of her dominance, and leave you questioning whether the problem was ever her at all. The hardest part isn't losing her. It's losing the version of yourself you became to keep her happy. You stop recognizing the man in the mirror because every piece of him has been rewritten to fit her fantasy. When you finally break free, she'll say you changed. She'll tell her story to make you the villain, because a narcissist can't exist without one. Let her talk. Let her rewrite. Because the moment you stop fighting to be understood, you win. She was never in love with you. She was in love with the reflection of herself she saw in your devotion. And when that mirror cracked, so did her illusion of control. Number 8. The I'm not ready woman. She'll look you in the eyes, smile softly, and say the words that trap more men than any lie ever could. I'm just not ready. It sounds gentle, even honest. But underneath that softness lies something cold. A refusal to commit, wrapped in emotional ambiguity. She wants the closeness of love, but not the responsibility. She wants your attention, but not your presence. She wants the feeling of being wanted, without ever having to choose. At first, you'll believe her. You'll think she just needs time. You'll wait, you'll prove, you'll hope. You'll tell yourself that if you're patient enough, loyal enough, or understanding enough, she'll come around. But she won't. Because the truth is, she's not waiting to be ready. She's waiting to feel something she doesn't feel for you. She'll keep you in emotional limbo, not cruelly, but conveniently. You'll be the safety net she returns to when the world disappoints her. The emotional placeholder she leans on until someone else sparks her excitement again. And when that happens, she'll drift away with a line as vague as her promise. I just need to figure myself out. You'll blame yourself. You'll replay conversations, searching for the moment you pushed too hard. But here's the truth. Her indecision isn't your failure. It's her clarity. She's already decided. She just doesn't have the courage to say it outright. You'll realize something powerful the day you stop waiting. Readiness isn't timing. It's intention. When someone wants you, you'll know. There will be no confusion, no hesitation, no maybe someday. Because real love doesn't stall. It moves. If she's not ready for love, don't wait. Because what she's really not ready for is you. You don't need to convince anyone to choose you. Waiting for someone who's undecided is just another way of teaching yourself you're not enough. Walk away, not out of anger, but out of respect for your own time, your own energy, and your own worth. Because every maybe you accept delays the life you truly deserve. You've just met 8 kinds of women, but in truth they all wear the same mask. They feed off your uncertainty, your willingness to explain, your hope that love will change them. And while each of them plays a different role, the spender, the liar, the flirt, the queen, the prisoner, the mirror, the maybe, they all have one thing in common. They take until there's nothing left of you to give. What you lose in these relationships isn't just money or time or pride. It's your sense of peace. It's that quiet strength that used to make you decisive, grounded, sure of yourself. Every encounter chips away at it, not all at once, but piece by piece, until one day you look in the mirror and realize you've been living as a reaction to someone else's emotions. That's the moment men wake up. The realization that love, at its best, should build you, not bleed you. That affection without respect is just manipulation in disguise. That giving endlessly doesn't make you noble, it makes you numb. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't need to prove you're enough. You don't have to rescue someone from their own chaos just to feel valuable. The moment you stop chasing what hurts you, you start healing from what broke you. If this video opened your eyes even a little, don't scroll away. Stay sharp. Subscribe. Share it with a man who needs to hear this. And never let another woman use your emotions as her playground. Because awareness is protection. And protection is power. Real strength isn't in loving harder. It's in knowing when to stop trying to fix what's meant to teach you. And real power? It isn't in holding. If she really wanted you, you wouldn't be decoding every message, analyzing every silence, or questioning every shift in her tone. But here you are, waiting, wondering, hoping, while she keeps you stuck in a cycle of almost interested, almost committed, almost yours. And that emotional limbo is exactly where she wants you. Because when a woman isn't serious, she won't tell you directly. She'll keep you close enough to use, but far enough to avoid responsibility. Most men don't see it until they're already drained. But you don't need to fall any deeper into her game. In this video, I'll break down the 5 signs she's playing you for a fool, so you can stop being used and start taking back control. You never fall into this kind of situation because she's extraordinary. You fall because the way she treats you plugs into something deeper, something you've ignored for years. Most men don't realize how easily they can be pulled into a woman's emotional game until they're already stuck in it. And it usually starts with one simple vulnerability: the hunger to feel chosen. That hunger makes you overlook the small inconsistencies. It makes you dismiss the hesitation in her voice, the vagueness in her answers, the way she keeps you close enough to taste her affection, but never close enough to claim it. You tell yourself you're being patient, you're being understanding, you're giving her time. But what's really happening is much colder. She's feeding you in emotional crumbs. Just enough warmth to keep you standing at her door, hoping the next moment will be different. And that's the trap. Women understand emotional patterns far better than men. You invest in straight lines, consistency, effort, progress. She moves in cycles, attention, withdrawal, re-engagement. When those two collide, you end up interpreting her behavior through your logic instead of her strategy. She gives you a late-night compliment, a soft touch, a playful message. Your brain takes that hit of dopamine and builds an entire narrative around it. Then she disappears, and instead of questioning her intentions, you question your worth. You weren't blinded by her beauty. You were blinded by your hope. Hope is the most powerful blinder a man can wear. It makes you rewrite her excuses as compassion. It makes you accept inconsistency as complexity. It makes you protect her behavior instead of protecting yourself. You start believing she's misunderstood, overworked, emotionally wounded, anything that keeps you from facing the truth that she's simply not choosing you. And before you know it, you're trapped in a loop you can't name. You wait for her messages. You analyze her tone. You defend her absence. You explain away her mixed behavior because the alternative feels worse, admitting you're being played. But once you understand the psychology behind this dynamic, the next 5 signs become impossible to ignore. And each one reveals exactly how she pulls you deeper into a game she never intended to finish. Number 1. Emotional distance wrapped in flirtation. It always starts the same way, with warmth that feels intentional. She compliments you, lingers when she touches your arm, sends those late-night messages that make you think she's letting you into a private part of her world. She gives you enough sweetness to trigger possibility in your mind, enough softness to make you believe she's opening up. But the moment you try to deepen the connection, everything changes. She dodges vulnerability with calculated precision. When you ask a personal question, she redirects. When you share how you feel, she goes quiet. When you hint at defining what's happening between you, she suddenly becomes confused, not ready, or just seeing where things go. And if you listen carefully, you'll notice that the warmth she gives you is always emotional, surface level, nothing deep. Nothing revealing. Nothing that requires her to risk anything. This isn't an accident, it's a power structure. Flirtation becomes her currency, and your emotional investment becomes the return she collects. She knows you mistake chemistry for connection, and she uses that confusion to keep you orbiting around her. You assume the tension you feel means something meaningful is brewing. But she's giving you performance, not partnership. When a woman wants you, emotional depth comes naturally. When she doesn't, flirtation is just bait. The reason men fall for this dynamic is simple. You assume reciprocity. You assume that if she's showing interest, she must want something real. But what she actually wants is attention without accountability. Your desire boosts her confidence. Your availability pads her ego. Your consistency gives her emotional comfort with zero cost. She gets all the perks of closeness while staying completely protected behind a wall she never intends to lower. Pay attention to the signs. She avoids every conversation that might lead to clarity. She laughs off direct questions. She says she likes what you have, but refuses to define it. She enjoys intimacy, but rejects emotional presence. Everything she offers is suggestive, but never substantial. Just enough to keep you craving the moment she finally opens up. Here's how you see the truth. Stop feeding her emotional oxygen. Pull back. Not dramatically, not as punishment. Simply disconnect the emotional faucet she's been drinking from. If she wants something real, she'll meet you halfway without hesitation. She'll initiate deeper conversations. She'll show genuine curiosity about your world. She'll stop hiding behind pleasant ambiguity. But if she goes cold, fades out, or replaces flirtation with distance the moment you stop chasing, you'll finally see her intention for what it was from the beginning. Not love, not interest, not potential, but control. Number 2. She keeps other men in the conversation to keep you off balance. It sounds harmless at first. She mentions an ex who still texts sometimes, a coworker who won't stop flirting, or a male friend who gets her in ways most people don't. She drops these details casually, like she's just telling stories from her day. But if you listen with the right ears, you'll hear the intention behind every name she brings up. She's not informing you. She's positioning herself. Women don't remind a man they're interested in that other men are pursuing them. A woman who feels something real will actually do the opposite. She'll protect the connection. She'll minimize outside noise. She'll make you feel like you have her focus. When a woman keeps other men in the spotlight, she's using them as psychological leverage. Each name she drops is meant to spark one reaction inside you: insecurity. That insecurity makes you compete without realizing it. It makes you question if you're enough, if she prefers someone else, if you're losing ground. That heightened emotional tension is exactly what she wants. It elevates her perceived value and lowers your sense of certainty in the relationship. And once she creates that imbalance, she has the advantage. What makes this tactic effective is that it feels unprovable. She's not insulting you directly. She's not openly comparing you. She's just being transparent, just sharing, just talking. Meanwhile, she's testing how much you'll tolerate. Will you try harder? Will you chase more? Will you put in extra effort to stand out from the imaginary competition she keeps bringing up? Most men do. They step deeper into the trap because they want to win her attention back. But here's the truth you need to see. When a woman is genuinely interested, she removes competitive anxiety from the equation. She doesn't make you guess where you stand. She doesn't trigger your jealousy to get a reaction. She doesn't use other men as props in her emotional playbook. A woman who wants you will protect your confidence, not sabotage it. The test is simple. Stop reacting. Don't ask questions. Don't flinch. Don't give her the emotional spike she's fishing for. If she senses that her tactics aren't affecting you, she'll do one of two things: intensify the comparisons to get a stronger response, or quietly distance herself when the game stops being fun. Either outcome gives you clarity, and clarity is what exposes the intention she's been hiding. She was never trying to connect with you. She was trying to control the dynamic. Once you stop feeding the insecurity she's been cultivating, the mask slips, and you finally see that the transparency she offered was never honesty. It was manipulation disguised as casual conversation. Number 3, your effort keeps increasing while her appreciation keeps shrinking. This is the stage where most men lose themselves without realizing it. You start strong, planning thoughtful dates, showing up when she needs support, remembering the little things she mentions, giving consistency because that's how you express interest. At first, she responds just enough to make you feel like you're moving forward. But then, something subtle shifts. No matter what you do, it's never enough. You become more intentional. She becomes more distant. You get more thoughtful. She gets more critical. You invest emotionally. She invests in excuses. A woman who values you won't make you feel like you're running on a treadmill, moving constantly but getting nowhere. But a woman who's playing you will keep shifting the target 1 week. She wants you to be more spontaneous, so you adjust. The next week, she wants someone more emotionally available, so you open up. Then she tells you the timing is wrong, or she's confused, or not sure what she wants. Notice the pattern. It's a moving finish line designed to make you chase an outcome she never intended to give. The reality is harsh but simple. She doesn't want a solution. She wants the power that comes from watching you try, as long as you're working to win her over. She doesn't have to give anything back. You become the emotional safety net, dependable, comforting, reliable. She doesn't have to commit to you because your presence is guaranteed whether she shows up or not. And the more you try, the more she withholds. Not because you're lacking, but because your effort threatens the imbalance she benefits from. This dynamic chips away at your self-worth. You start believing you're not enough, when the truth is, she's not looking for enough. She's looking for control. She needs you slightly uncertain, slightly insecure, slightly off balance. That's how she keeps the upper hand. She wants the boyfriend energy without the boyfriend responsibility. Your consistency becomes her convenience. Look closely at the micro behaviors. She praises you only when she senses you're slipping away. She criticizes you when you show enthusiasm. She pulls you close when she's lonely and pushes you away when you get too real. Her appreciation is rationed. Her disappointment is unlimited. A woman who wants you doesn't operate like this. If she wanted you, your presence would be enough. If she doesn't, no effort will ever fix it. The real test is withdrawal, not addition. Pull back, not to punish her, but to stop exhausting yourself. When the chase ends, the truth surfaces. A woman who values you will meet you where you are. A woman who's using you will complain, manipulate, or disappear. And either way, you finally get your answer. Number 4. Her inconsistency is not confusion. It's a calculated way to control the rhythm of your emotions. Men often misinterpret this dynamic as mixed feelings or emotional complexity. But there's nothing complex about what she's doing. She warms up just enough to pull you closer, then cools down just enough to keep you guessing. It's the emotional version of tightening and loosening a leash. Not enough pressure to make you walk away, but enough to remind you who holds the tension. She texts you non-stop for 2 days, then disappears for 3. She tells you she misses you, then avoids making plans. She flirts heavily at night, then acts distant the next morning. And every time you think you understand her, she shifts again. That shift isn't accidental. It keeps you in a state where you can't predict her next move, which makes you focus on her even more. This cycle works because your mind becomes addicted to the uncertainty. The human brain is wired to chase intermittent rewards. Unpredictable highs hit harder than consistent ones. She learned that a long time ago. Every warm message, every soft glance, every moment of attention is followed by silence or withdrawal. The contrast creates an emotional spike inside you, one you confuse with chemistry. It isn't chemistry, it's conditioning. And here's the part most men never see. She only becomes consistent when she senses you pulling away. That's when she suddenly remembers to compliment you, to initiate conversations, to bring back the version of herself that hooked you in the first place. The moment you lean in again, she goes cold. It's not moodiness, it's not stress, it's not timing, it's strategy, because inconsistency keeps her in control. You make the mistake of searching for a reason. Was she tired? Did you say something wrong? Is she overwhelmed? Did she need space? But the moment you start diagnosing her behavior, you fall deeper into the trap. She wants you analyzing her, not analyzing the pattern. If you focus on the moment, she controls the narrative. If you focus on the pattern, the truth becomes obvious. Real interest is consistent. Fake interest is chaotic. Women know exactly what they're doing when they send mixed signals. Even the confused ones understand the power of uncertainty. No woman accidentally keeps someone emotionally hooked for weeks or months. When she cares, she shows it. When she doesn't, she lets inconsistency do the dirty work. The test is clarity. Stop reacting to the warm moments and start measuring the overall rhythm. Does she match your effort? Do her actions align with her words? Does she show up consistently or only when she senses distance? When you stop chasing the highs and start evaluating the pattern, the illusion dissolves. And what felt like chemistry reveals itself for what it always was. Control disguised as confusion. Number 5. She's never available for you, but she's always available for what she needs from you. This is one of the clearest signs a woman is taking you for granted, yet it's the one men excuse the most. She tells you she's overwhelmed with work, drained from life, exhausted, busy, stressed, an endless rotation of reasons why she can't make plans right now. But somehow that same woman has the time and energy to post selfies, update stories, go out with friends, binge entire shows, and stay active everywhere except with you. She's not actually busy, she's selective. When a woman wants you, she makes room. When she doesn't, she gives you what's left. And in this case, that's almost nothing. She doesn't disappear entirely because she still wants access to your comfort and your attention. So instead of cutting you off, she maintains a thin thread of connection. Just enough for you to stay available, not enough for you to feel valued. That's why she resurfaces only when she needs something. When she wants emotional comfort, she calls you. When she needs a favor, she texts you. When she's lonely, she shows affection. When her ego dips, she sends a "miss you" message out of nowhere. But the moment you try to reciprocate and ask for time, presence, or effort, she slips behind the same wall of excuses. She knows you'll accept the scraps because you've been conditioned to think her sudden moments of warmth mean she secretly cares. They don't. They mean she wants to withdraw from your emotional bank account without making a single deposit. Look at the micro patterns. She leaves you unseen, but replies instantly to the things that benefit her. She cancels on you last minute, but never cancels the plans that excite her. She leans on you emotionally after disappearing for days, expecting you to be exactly where she left you. And the worst part? You've started normalizing it. You've convinced yourself that her inconsistent presence is still better than losing her completely. That mindset is exactly what keeps you trapped. A woman who values you doesn't treat you like an emotional convenience store, open when she needs something, closed when you ask for reciprocation. Her availability reflects her interest. Her presence reflects her intention. Her effort reflects her respect. The test is simple and revealing. Go silent. Stop volunteering your time. Stop offering emotional labor. Stop making yourself accessible on demand. When you remove the comfort she's been taking from you, her response will tell you everything. If she disappears, you were never chosen. If she suddenly reaches out, she's reacting to the loss of control, not a surge of genuine affection. The moment you stop giving, you'll know exactly who she was. Walking away from a woman who's been playing you isn't difficult because she's special. It's difficult because she activated parts of you that haven't been acknowledged in years. The addiction to her attention, the hope that she might finally choose you, the fantasy version of her that you've built in your mind. Those are the real chains. And most men stay longer than they should, because they're not fighting her. They're fighting their own attachment to the potential she represented. You hold on because you've already invested time, energy, emotion. You tell yourself you're close to something meaningful, that if you stay patient, if you adjust, if you show her a little more understanding, she'll eventually meet you halfway. That's the sunk cost fallacy disguised as loyalty. You're not staying because she's worth it. You're staying because it's painful to admit that you misread her. The only way out is to shift your mindset. You're not walking away from her. You're walking away from the version of yourself that tolerated the bare minimum. You're walking away from your own weakness, not from a woman who was never fully there. Start with emotional detachment. Stop analyzing her actions. Stop replaying her mixed signals. Stop trying to decode behavior that was designed to confuse you. Treat her distance as an answer, not a puzzle. When you detach emotionally, you stop responding to the hooks she throws out to keep you orbiting her. Then draw a real boundary through silence. Not silence as punishment, but silence as clarity. The moment you stop offering unlimited access to your time and your emotional availability, the dynamic flips. She loses her leverage. And you regain the power she's been siphoning from you. Stop giving her the validation she didn't earn. Every compliment, every reassuring message, every attempt to prove your worth was feeding her ego, not building a relationship. Cut the supply. Redirect that energy back into your own life, your health, your work, your goals, your masculine foundation. When your focus shifts inward, the emotional fog lifts. This is where everything changes. The moment you stop chasing, you stop bleeding self-respect. The moment you stop giving, you stop being used. The moment you stop trying to win her, you realize she was never the prize. You were. You don't lose the woman. You lose the illusion she sold you. And that is the moment you finally take your power back. You've seen the pattern now, the flirtation without depth, the mentions of other men meant to keep you competing, the endless effort she absorbs without appreciation, the hot and cold rhythm that keeps you chasing clarity she never intends to give, the selective availability that reveals exactly where you stand in her priorities. None of these signs happen by accident. They form a blueprint, one that belongs to a woman who treats connection like a game and your attention like a resource. When you step back and look at the full picture, the truth becomes impossible to ignore. A woman who wants something real will never leave you guessing. She won't weaponize her warmth. She won't destabilize your confidence to raise her value. She won't keep you around for comfort while offering nothing substantial in return. Men only tolerate these dynamics when they're blinded by hope, chemistry, or the fear of losing the version of her they created in their minds. But every moment, you accept inconsistency. You teach her that she can access your loyalty without giving anything back. You deserve better than emotional scraps. You deserve someone who shows up with intention, not confusion. Someone who matches your effort, not drains it. Someone who values your presence instead of exploiting your availability. And the moment you recognize even one of these signs, you owe it to yourself to stop negotiating with someone who refuses to choose you. Waiting for all five to line up is how men waste years of their lives on women who never had the capacity to love them in the first place. So take a hard look at your situation. Ask yourself the question most men avoid. Are you being loved, or are you being used? Are you in a relationship, or are you filling an emotional gap for someone who disappears the moment she's satisfied? Your answer is the beginning of your freedom. If this opened your eyes, stay here with me. Subscribe so you don't fall into the same trap again. Like the video, if it hit somewhere you've been afraid to confront, share it with the men in your life who need to hear what you finally understand. And speak up in the comments. Your clarity might be the wake-up call another man needs. You're not here to be chosen. You're here to choose. And the moment you act like it, the game ends. Let me ask you a question. How do you know when a relationship has crossed the line from love into destruction? It doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, when small red flags keep piling up until you wake up one day and realize you're no longer the man you used to be. That's the danger. The longer you stay blind to it, the more of your time, your peace, and your self-respect you lose. Today, I'll walk you through the 5 unmistakable signs that tell you it's time to leave immediately. As a psychologist and relationship coach, I've spent years listening to men who didn't realize the damage until they were already broken down. And I don't want you to be one of them. So before we get into the details, make sure you subscribe, give this video a like, and share your own experience in the comments. Have you ever spotted a red flag too late? Your story might help another man wake up. Now let's break this down, because the first sign is the foundation of how emotional manipulation begins. Number 1, gaslighting. When she makes you doubt yourself. You bring up something that bothered you, and she looks you straight in the eye and says, "That never happened." The first time, you laugh it off, thinking maybe you remembered wrong. The third time, you feel uneasy. By the 10th, you're no longer sure if you can trust your own memory. That is gaslighting, and it is one of the most destructive games anyone can play with your mind. Here's the truth. A relationship can survive mistakes, disagreements, even fights. But it cannot survive when your reality is being rewritten in front of you. Gaslighting works like rust. It eats at your confidence slowly, until one day you wake up and you don't recognize the man in the mirror. Psychologically, gaslighting is a way to gain control. If she can make you doubt your perception, she doesn't have to change her behavior. Sometimes this tactic is intentional. Other times it comes from fear, shame, or immaturity. But whether it's malicious or defensive, the outcome is the same. You become a man who second-guesses himself at every turn. You apologize for things you didn't do. You wonder if you're being too sensitive. And eventually, you hand over your power because you no longer trust your own voice. So what do you do? First, anchor yourself in facts. Write them down. Keep a record of agreements, conversations, and boundaries. You don't have to become an investigator. You just need to protect your reality from being stolen. Second, when you bring it up, stay calm and specific. Say, when I share an experience and you deny it, I start to doubt myself, and that's damaging to us. That's clear. That's adult. It removes the smoke she can hide behind. Now, here's the critical part. If she takes responsibility, if she says, "You're right, I did say that, and I'll work on it," then there's room for growth. But if she doubles down, if she mocks you for being too sensitive, or if she flips the blame back on you, then you have your answer. She's not interested in repairing the relationship. She's interested in keeping control. And you, my friend, need to ask yourself a hard question. Have you been silent just to keep the peace? Because silence in the face of gaslighting isn't peace. It's slow self-destruction. Every time you swallow your truth, you're teaching her that your reality is negotiable. A man who gives up his reality gives up his backbone, and without that, you can't lead yourself, let alone a relationship. Remember this. A woman who truly loves you will never make you feel insane for remembering what actually happened. She won't erase your truth to protect herself. If you're constantly editing your words, watering down your feelings, or questioning your sanity just to stay with her, that's not love. It's corrosion. You deserve a relationship where your perception matters, where your words land, where your memory is respected. If you can't have that, you don't have a partner. You have a manipulator. And manipulators don't stop until you stop them. So take this seriously. Recognize the pattern, call it out once with clarity, and if it repeats, understand that you are not dealing with a miscommunication, you are dealing with a reality war, and no man can thrive in a reality where his truth is constantly erased. Because when she twists your reality long enough, the next stage always comes. She stops respecting your boundaries, and once those are gone, the erosion only gets worse. Number 2, boundary disrespect. When she crosses the lines you set. Every healthy relationship is built on boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. They're agreements that protect respect, trust, and peace. They say, "This is who I am, this is what I need, and this is how I expect to be treated." But if you've ever told a woman, "I need some space today," and she reacted with anger, or you said, "I'm not comfortable with you checking my phone," and she laughed it off and did it anyway, then you've witnessed the slow death of boundaries. Here's the psychological truth. When someone ignores your limits, they're sending you a message. That message is, "My comfort matters more than your well-being. My curiosity matters more than your privacy. My desires matter more than your peace." Sometimes this comes from immaturity, from a belief that true love means no boundaries. But other times it's about power. If she can cross your lines without consequence, she learns she can own more of your space, your time, and eventually your identity. Let's be clear, one slip-up is human. Everyone makes mistakes. But when boundary breaking becomes a pattern, when she rolls her eyes every time you say no or treats your requests as negotiable, you're not in a partnership, you're in a takeover. So how do you respond? First, define your boundaries with clarity. Don't hint, don't suggest. Say it plain. I need privacy on my phone. I won't tolerate yelling. I need one evening a week to recharge alone. Boundaries are not suggestions, they're standards. Second, enforce them consistently. A boundary you announce but don't protect is just a wish list. If she violates your line, there has to be a consequence. Not yelling, not threats, but action. That might mean ending the conversation, walking away, or refusing to engage until respect is restored. Now let's flip the mirror. Ask yourself, have you truly held the line? Or have you drawn it in sand and watched it wash away the moment she pushed back? Did you say, I won't accept this, only to cave in later just to avoid conflict? Because if you keep folding, you're not protecting your peace. You're teaching her that your boundaries are negotiable. And a negotiable boundary is no boundary at all. You need to understand this. A woman who respects you will test your limits, but once she knows they're real, she'll adapt. A woman who doesn't respect you will keep pushing, because to her, every no is just the start of a debate. And if you play that game, you'll lose more than arguments. You'll lose yourself. Think about the cost. Every ignored no chips away at your identity. Every dismissed request tells you you're not worthy of respect. Over time, you start to shrink inside the relationship until you're nothing but a shadow of the man you once were. And make no mistake, when your boundaries collapse, your self-worth collapses right with them. So here's the cold truth. A woman who tramples your boundaries isn't a partner. She's a liability. And the longer you tolerate it, the more expensive she becomes, not in money, but in peace, confidence, and dignity. If you've been struggling with this, remember, protecting your boundary doesn't make you difficult, it makes you strong. Saying no is not rejection, it's respect. Respect for yourself and respect for the relationship. And if she can't handle that, then what you have is not love. It's control dressed up as connection. And once boundaries fall, another pattern always follows. The blame shifts, the spotlight turns, and suddenly you're not just the man with no lines, you're the villain in every story. Number 3, victim playing, when she always makes you the villain. You know this script. No matter what happens, somehow it ends up being your fault. She forgets to call, but you didn't remind her. She snaps at you, but you pushed her into it. She hides something, but you didn't love her enough. Every wrong turn in the relationship gets twisted back toward you until you start feeling like the permanent bad guy in your own story. That's not conflict resolution. That's victim playing, and it's one of the fastest ways to drain the life out of a man. Here's the psychology behind it. Playing the victim is emotional armor. If she positions herself as the one who's always hurt, then she never has to take responsibility. It's a shield against accountability. Sometimes it comes from fear. Maybe she can't tolerate the shame of being wrong. Sometimes it's learned behavior from past relationships where guilt was a survival tool. But whatever the reason, the effect on you is brutal. When every road leads back to your guilt, you stop trying to fix anything. Why? Because you're already guilty before the trial even begins. This isn't just exhausting, it's dangerous. Over time, constant blame rewires how you see yourself. You stop asking, did I do something wrong? And start asking, what's wrong with me? That's how self-doubt metastasizes into self-loathing. And that is not the soil where a man grows. So what do you do when the blame game is the default setting? Step 1. Refuse to play. Don't argue in circles. Don't get caught in emotional quicksand trying to prove your innocence. State facts calmly and clearly. I hear that you feel hurt, but that doesn't mean this is all my fault. Step 2. Shift the dynamic toward accountability. Say, I'm willing to own my part, but I need you to own yours too. A balanced partner will step up. A chronic victim will double down. Either way, you get clarity. Now let's turn the spotlight on you. Ask yourself, have you been so desperate to keep peace that you've absorbed blame just to end the argument? Have you nodded along to accusations you didn't believe, thinking it would calm her down? Because if you keep doing that, you're not avoiding conflict. You're feeding a monster. Every false confession you make strengthens her belief that she's always right and you're always wrong. That's not love. That's training. And you're training her to see you as the culprit in every fight. Understand this. No healthy relationship is built on one person carrying all the guilt. Love is built on shared responsibility. If she cannot admit her part, she's not building with you. She's building on top of you. And sooner or later, that weight will crush you. Here's the bottom line. You are not a scapegoat. You are not a punching bag for misplaced guilt. A woman who truly values you will be willing to say, "Yes, I messed up." She won't always get it right, but she will at least acknowledge her humanity. If she never does, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a trial that never ends, with a sentence that only gets longer. And if you keep standing in the defendant's chair, don't be surprised when you lose sight of your own innocence. That's the cost of staying with someone who never drops the victim act. Because when you're cast as the villain long enough, something else starts to happen. She doesn't just take your confidence, she begins to take your most valuable currency, your time. And that's the next sign you need to recognize before it's too late. Number 4, disrespecting time. When she treats your time like it's disposable. Time is the one resource you can never earn back. Money can be replaced. Energy can be restored. But once a minute is gone, it's gone forever. And yet, some women will treat your time like it's cheap, like you'll always wait, like you'll always be available. She says she'll meet you at 7, and she shows up at 8 without apology. She cancels plans with you at the last minute, but expects you to understand. She spends hours scrolling or chatting with others, but acts like you're demanding when you ask for a small slice of her attention. At first, you brush it off. You tell yourself she's just busy, just distracted, just stressed. But if it keeps happening, if it becomes a pattern, you start to notice something darker. It's not just about poor time management. It's about value. She's showing you, in plain sight, how much or how little she prioritizes you. Psychologically, time is respect. When someone shows up on time, they're saying, "You matter. Your schedule matters. Your life matters." When someone constantly disrespects your time, the message is the opposite. You'll wait. You'll adjust. You'll bend. Because my priorities are more important than yours. Sometimes it's immaturity. Sometimes it's entitlement. But either way, the effect is the same. You feel like an afterthought. So how do you deal with it? Start by setting a standard. Tell her clearly, "If we make plans, I expect us to stick to them. If something changes, I need to know ahead of time." You're not being controlling. You're asking for basic respect. Next, pay attention to consistency. Everyone slips up once, but if lateness, cancellations, and broken plans keep stacking up, it's not bad luck. It's a habit. And habits reveal character. Now comes the part most men avoid: consequences. If she disrespects your time, stop rewarding it. Don't wait endlessly while she gets ready. Don't reschedule 10 times just because she flaked. If she's late without notice, leave. If she cancels at the last second, don't rush to fit her back in. You're not punishing her. You're showing her that your time has value. And if she can't respect it, she doesn't deserve it. But before you point the finger only at her, ask yourself, have you been giving your time away too freely? Have you been dropping everything for her while neglecting your own priorities? Have you made her the center of your schedule while she barely makes space for you in hers? Because if you don't value your own time, why should she? Respect starts with you. Understand this. When a woman constantly wastes your time, she's not just being careless. She's shaping the rhythm of the relationship. She's teaching you that her delays, her cancellations, her distractions are normal, and that your needs will always be second. That's not love. That's disregard. Here's the harsh truth. A woman who truly values you will guard your time as fiercely as her own. She won't always be perfect, but she'll make the effort. If she doesn't, if she keeps treating your time like it's optional, you need to stop asking why she doesn't respect you and start asking why you're letting her. Because time is not just hours on a clock. It's your life. And if she's willing to waste your time now, she's telling you she's willing to waste your life later. And once she stops respecting your time, the slide continues. Because what follows next is even colder. Not only does she steal your hours, she eventually stops giving any effort at all. Number 5. Stopping effort. When she no longer invests in the relationship. At the beginning, everything feels alive. She dresses up for you. She asks about your day. She surprises you with small acts that make you feel chosen. That's effort. That's care. That's investment. But over time, something shifts. The compliments fade. The energy dies. She no longer listens when you talk, no longer reaches for your hand, no longer shows interest in making plans for the future. It's not that she's angry. It's not that she's busy. It's that she's stopped trying. And that is one of the clearest signs you can't ignore. Relationships don't collapse overnight. They wither when one partner stops showing up. When she puts in zero effort, she's telling you, without words, "You don't inspire me anymore. I'm not invested here." Sometimes it's temporary, caused by stress or fatigue. But if weeks turn into months, if neglect becomes the new normal, then you're not in a relationship. You're in a holding pattern, waiting for something that's already gone. Psychologically, effort is the oxygen of intimacy. Without it, the connection suffocates. Small gestures, asking how you're doing, planning quality time, offering affection, these are the signs that someone values the bond. When those vanish, it's not just laziness, it's detachment. And detachment kills love faster than conflict ever could. So what can you do? First, diagnose the cause. Is this a temporary slump? Maybe she's under pressure at work, dealing with family stress, or fighting her own battles. If that's the case, communication is key. Ask directly, "I feel distance between us. Is something going on?" If she opens up and you see effort to repair, there's room to rebuild. But if she shrugs it off, denies there's a problem, or shows no interest in putting energy back into the relationship, then you have clarity. You can't revive a connection alone. One person can't do the work of two. And the more you chase, the more you shrink. Now here's where you need to be brutally honest with yourself. Are you carrying this relationship on your back? Are you making excuses for her silence, her disinterest, her lack of care? Have you been telling yourself, "She'll come around," while months go by with no change? Because that's not patience, that's denial. And denial is expensive. It costs you your time, your energy, your dignity. Understand this. Attraction might spark a relationship, but effort sustains it. Without consistent effort from both sides, what you have is not love, it's inertia. A woman who stops investing in you has already withdrawn, even if her body is still beside you. And if you stay, you're agreeing to live with a ghost of what once was. Here's the hard punch. When a woman stops trying, the love you once had is gone. You can't breathe life back into something she's already decided to let die. The only question left is whether you're going to keep waiting by the graveside, or whether you'll walk away and choose life for yourself. Because these 5 signs aren't random annoyances. They're alarms. Each one chips away at your confidence, your peace, your self-respect. Ignore them long enough, and you'll forget who you were before the erosion began. And once all 5 show up, gaslighting, broken boundaries, victim games, wasted time, and zero effort, there's no mistaking it anymore. What you're in is not a relationship. It's a slow demolition, and the only way out is through the door. You've now seen the 5 signs: gaslighting, boundary violations, victim games, wasted time, and the absence of effort. Each of them on their own is enough to corrode a relationship. Together, They form a pattern that no man should tolerate. Let me be clear. One mistake doesn't equal the end. Everyone slips up. Everyone has bad days. But when these behaviors become a cycle, when they repeat without remorse or repair, that's not a slip. That's a system. And systems don't change just because you hope they will. The question isn't whether she's perfect. No one is. The real question is whether she shows up with respect, accountability, and consistent effort. If the answer is no, then you need to face a hard truth. You are not in a relationship worth saving. You are in a situation draining the very things you need to thrive: your confidence, your energy, your peace. And here's what I want you to remember. You are not powerless. You are not a passive victim in your own life. You have the right to draw the line, to say, enough, to walk away from what destroys you. Choosing to leave is not weakness. It's strength. It's leadership over your own life. Picture this. If she's dimming your light, stop trying to keep the flame alive in a place that only wants to smother it. Step out of the shadows and into the space where your light shines without apology. That's where you belong, not stuck in someone else's game, but standing fully in your own worth. If any of these 5 signs hit home for you, don't ignore them. Don't rationalize them. Don't wait for change that never comes. Your time, your peace, and your self-respect are worth more than that. And if you're ready to stop wasting time on the wrong people, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. Because the truth is, most men never hear these warnings until it's too late. But you're here, you're awake, and now you know. Don't just listen. Act. If you've ever felt like a woman slowly stopped respecting you and you couldn't explain when it started, this video is about you. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Women don't accidentally walk all over men. They only do it when a man never set boundaries early enough to stop it. In the first stages of dating, there are 5 boundaries that determine whether she sees you as a man she respects or a man she slowly takes for granted. Miss even one, and you'll spend months confused, overgiving, and wondering why the dynamic flipped. This isn't about being harsh. It's not about playing games. And it's definitely not about controlling women. It's about understanding the exact moments where men unknowingly give away leverage and how to stop doing that before attraction turns into tolerance. If you don't learn these 5 boundaries early, you won't just lose her respect. You'll lose yourself trying to get it back. Most dating advice teaches men how to react. This video teaches you how to position yourself so you don't have to react at all. The difference isn't confidence or charisma, it's structure. Boundaries create structure, and structure determines who leads the dynamic and who adapts to it. If you're ready to shift from guessing to understanding, like the video and subscribe now. Because once you see how these dynamics actually form, you stop chasing outcomes and start controlling your own position. And that shift begins with the very first boundary most men ignore. Let's break that open. Number 1. Never open financial access before she's earned it. Men confuse sharing with bonding. You think talking about money is just conversation. You think you're being transparent, relaxed, authentic. But that's not how it lands on the other side of the table. To a woman, early financial information is not intimacy. It's data. The moment you talk about your income, your investments, the cost of your car, the trips you're planning, something subtle but irreversible happens. You stop being a man she's discovering, and you start being a man she's measuring. Not emotionally, practically. This is what I call the provider audition. She hasn't chosen you yet. She hasn't committed. She hasn't invested. But you're already standing on stage, proving your usefulness. And the dangerous part is that you usually don't even notice it happening. You mention your salary casually. You joke about a bonus. You talk about how much you've saved this year. You think you're just making conversation. But in her mind, a quiet assessment begins. Stability, capacity, access. From that point on, attraction stops being emotional and starts becoming evaluative. Here's the truth most men don't want to hear. Once a woman starts evaluating your wallet, she stops feeling you. Curiosity turns into calculation. Tension turns into expectation. And no, she doesn't need to ask you for money for this shift to happen. All she has to do is observe how freely you expose it, how eager you are to signal that you can provide, how quickly you turn your financial life into proof of worth. Men do this because they were taught that providing equals value, that security equals desirability. But early on, provision doesn't create attraction. It replaces it. You're no longer the man she wants. You're the man she's seeing what she can get from. That's why this boundary matters so early. Because once the frame changes, you don't get it back. You can't talk your way out of being evaluated. You can't charm your way back into mystery. The moment she starts evaluating your wallet, attraction stops being emotional. It becomes transactional. When you step in too early and start solving her financial problems, something critical shifts, and it's not in your favor. You don't become her partner. You become her support system. That's the role downgrade most men never see coming. The moment you say, "I got you," before there's commitment, you silently volunteer for responsibility without authority. You give provision without position. And once that happens, the dynamic hardens. She may appreciate you, but appreciation is not desire. Gratitude is not attraction. This is where the financial tests begin. They're subtle. She mentions how tight things have been lately. A bill she's stressed about. A car issue that's expensive to fix. She's not asking outright. She's watching. She's watching how quickly you move. She's watching if you feel compelled to rescue. She's watching whether your boundaries collapse the moment pressure appears. Most men fail here because they confuse generosity with leadership. They rush in, thinking it proves value. In reality, it proves predictability. And predictable men are easy to place into utility roles. The correct boundary doesn't require speeches or defensiveness. You don't justify. You don't over-explain. You don't apologize. You stay calm. You stay grounded. You close the door without slamming it. Something simple, supportive, but firm. No offer, no guilt, no entanglement. And here's the part that surprises men. A woman who is genuinely interested will respect this immediately. Not because she's testing you less, but because she feels safer with a man who protects his structure. A woman with unclear intentions will feel irritated. She may pull back. She may lose interest. That's not a loss. That's filtration. This boundary doesn't push women away. It filters out the ones who were never there for you, only for what you could provide. Leadership begins where access is controlled. Number 2, never tolerate disrespect, especially when it's subtle. Most men think disrespect looks loud. Raised voices, insults, obvious hostility. That's why they miss it when it actually matters. Because real disrespect doesn't announce itself. It sneaks in quietly and waits to see if you'll stop it. It shows up when she interrupts you mid-sentence and keeps talking. When she makes a passive joke at your expense and follows it with, "Relax, I'm just teasing." When she casually compares you to her ex. When she ignores your messages for hours but expects instant replies from you. None of these moments feel big enough to confront. And that's exactly why they work. From a psychological standpoint, this isn't cruelty, it's evaluation. She's asking one silent question. Can I get away with this? Women test boundaries the same way water tests cracks. Slowly, incrementally. One small push at a time. If nothing pushes back, the pressure increases. Here's a scenario most men recognize but rarely address. You're out with her and a few friends. Everyone's laughing, talking. Then someone asks how things are going between you two. She smirks and says something like, "He's fine," when he's not being clueless. Her friends laugh. She laughs too. You smile. You tell yourself it's harmless, that she didn't mean it like that. But something just happened. She lowered your status in public. She used you as a moment of entertainment. And more importantly, she watched what you did next. Disrespect tests aren't about the comment. They're about your response. Or lack of one. When you let it slide, you're not being easygoing. You're signaling that your self-respect is negotiable. That comfort matters more to you than boundaries. And once a woman realizes she can step over you without consequence, she will. Not because she's malicious, but because you showed her the line doesn't exist. Silence is not composure. Silence is consent. That's the mistake men make when they convince themselves that staying quiet makes them look calm, mature, unbothered. In reality, what you're communicating is much simpler and much more damaging. You're telling her that this behavior is allowed. When you don't respond to subtle disrespect, you don't freeze the moment. You set a precedent, and precedents compound. One small pass turns into another, then another, until the dynamic has shifted so far that fixing it feels impossible. Here's the chain reaction most men never anticipate. When she disrespects you publicly and you let it slide, her friends notice. They don't see you as easygoing. They see you as the man who doesn't stand up for himself. Their perception changes first, then hers follows. Because once a woman sees that you'll tolerate being diminished in front of others, she learns she can do it privately too. The tone shifts, the effort drops, the attraction erodes. Not overnight, but permanently. High-value men don't respond to disrespect with explosions or sarcasm. They don't embarrass her back. They don't turn it into drama. They respond immediately, calmly, directly. One short sentence, no edge, no explanation, no emotional charge, just a clear line drawn in the sand. That response does something powerful. It resets the frame. It tells her, and everyone watching, that you respect yourself enough to stop the moment it crosses a line. This isn't about controlling her behavior. It's about enforcing your standards. Because respect is not negotiated through patience. It's not earned by endurance. And it's not preserved by silence. Respect is enforced. Number 3, never make your time freely available just because you like her. This is where most men sabotage themselves before the relationship even has a chance to form. You think availability shows interest. You think saying yes quickly proves enthusiasm. You think rearranging your schedule makes you look invested. From her side, it looks very different. When a man is always available, it doesn't signal desire. It signals a lack of structure. And women don't evaluate men in isolation. They evaluate the life that surrounds him. Here's the pattern. You meet a woman you're excited about. The chemistry feels good. The attention feels promising. And because you don't want to miss your opportunity, you start doing something subtle but destructive. You cancel plans. You move commitments. You stay flexible, just in case, she texts. Dinner with friends disappears. Gym sessions get skipped. Your schedule becomes reactive instead of intentional. Not because you're irresponsible, but because you're afraid of losing momentum. That fear is what she feels. From a psychological perspective, a woman isn't just asking, "Does he like me?" She's asking, "Does this man have a life that can hold me without collapsing?" When your time becomes an open buffet, she doesn't feel chosen. She feels prioritized at the expense of everything else. And paradoxically, that lowers attraction. Men believe scarcity pushes women away. In reality, the absence of structure pushes them away faster. A man who drops everything the moment she appears doesn't look committed. He looks unanchored. And women don't trust men who have nothing anchoring them. This boundary isn't about playing hard to get. It's about protecting the foundation of your life, because when your time loses value, you do too. A man who treats his time like currency is always in demand. Not because he's unavailable, not because he's playing games, but because his life already has direction before she ever steps into it. When you protect your schedule, something powerful happens in her mind. She stops seeing you as an option she can summon and starts seeing you as a man she has to meet halfway. Time creates anticipation when it's not on demand. That's the part most men misunderstand. They think saying no kills momentum. In reality, it sharpens it. When you don't jump every time she reaches out, you signal self-control. And self-control is one of the strongest indicators of maturity. Here's what this looks like in real life. She texts late. She wants to see you spontaneously. But you have an early morning, a workout, a commitment you already made. The low-value move is to abandon your plans and rush over, hoping it proves interest. The grounded move is simple. Calm. No explanation spiral. You acknowledge her, but you don't rearrange your life to accommodate an impulse. That response does two things at once. It shows that your time matters, and it makes the time you do give her feel intentional, not convenient. There's an important distinction here. Being busy isn't attractive. Purpose is. A man with purpose doesn't need to fake scarcity. His schedule reflects priorities. His life has momentum, and women feel that difference immediately. When your time is protected, attraction has space to grow. When your time is unlimited, attraction suffocates. You don't win by being constantly present. You win by being consistently grounded. Number 4, never become her emotional dumping ground before she commits. This is one of the most seductive traps men fall into because it disguises itself as connection. She opens up early, talks about her ex, the trauma, the chaos, family drama, how every man before you hurt her. She cries on the phone, tells you she's never felt this understood, and you think, this must mean something. It feels intimate. It feels special. It feels like you're different. But emotional dumping is not intimacy. It's recruitment. What's actually happening is simple. She's testing how much emotional labor you're willing to carry before she gives you anything real in return. And most men volunteer without realizing the cost. You listen for hours. You reassure. You stay up late calming her down. You give advice. You absorb her emotional weight. You become steady, reliable, safe. And slowly, quietly, the frame shifts. You're no longer the man she desires. You're the man she stabilizes herself with. Here's the part that hurts the most. Men mistake emotional access for emotional bonding. They think, she trusts me. What they don't see is that trust without investment doesn't create attraction. It creates utility. She leans on you, then turns around and gives her excitement, her curiosity, her unpredictability to someone else. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stepped into the role of therapist instead of partner. Masculine polarity dies the moment you become her emotional container too early. Mystery fades, tension dissolves, desire flattens, and you can't argue your way out of that position. Once you're emotionally categorized as the safe one, it sticks. This boundary isn't about being cold, it's about pacing intimacy. Because when you carry her emotional weight before she chooses you, you're giving away your strongest leverage. Emotional closeness is powerful, but only when it's mutual, only when it's earned. Emotional intimacy is currency, and like any currency, it loses value when it's handed out without investment. Here's the distinction most men never learn. You can be present without being responsible. You can listen without carrying. You can care without collapsing into her emotional world. The mistake isn't empathy. The mistake is overextension. When you rush to absorb her pain, fix her wounds, and stabilize her emotions before there's commitment, you reverse the natural flow of bonding. She doesn't grow closer to the man who carries her. She grows closer to the man she invests in. That's how emotional attachment actually forms. Healthy emotional pacing looks different. You listen, you acknowledge, you stay grounded. But you don't dive into problem-solving mode. You don't become the late-night crisis line. You don't let her emotional storms dictate your availability or identity. This boundary protects masculine polarity. Polarity exists when there's tension, space, and mutual effort. It dies when one person becomes the emotional anchor while the other drifts freely. Men often think pulling back emotionally makes them seem uncaring. In reality, it makes the connection cleaner. It invites reciprocity. It gives her the opportunity to step forward emotionally instead of leaning back into you. And that's the key shift. A woman bonds with the man she invests in emotionally, not the one who carries her emotional weight for free. When she has to show up, when she has to contribute, when she has to regulate herself, attraction deepens naturally. This boundary doesn't block intimacy. It preserves it. Because intimacy that isn't earned doesn't build desire. It builds dependence. And dependence is the opposite of attraction. Number 5. Never panic when she pulls back. This is the moment where most men undo everything they did right before. Things were good. The energy was there. The connection felt mutual. Then something shifts. Her replies slow down. The warmth fades. The effort drops. And instead of staying grounded, you panic. That panic is instinctive. You feel the distance and assume something is wrong. Maybe she's stressed. Maybe you said something wrong. Maybe there's someone else. And without realizing it, you start doing the one thing guaranteed to kill attraction. You try harder while she does less. It usually unfolds in 3 predictable mistakes. First, you fill the silence. She creates space, and you rush to close it. More messages. Faster replies. Extra check-ins. What you're really saying is, I'm uncomfortable without your attention. Second, you try to reassure her. You offer emotional availability on demand. You let her know you're there for anything. Every word quietly communicates fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of the connection slipping away. Third, you overcompensate. You plan more, compliment more, give more. You turn the volume up, hoping effort will restore what distance removed. But attraction doesn't work that way. From a power dynamic perspective, the moment you increase effort in response to withdrawal, the balance shifts. She holds the frame, you chase it. And once that imbalance locks in, desire suffocates. A woman cannot miss a man who is constantly trying to close the gap. She can only miss what has space to disappear. Pulling back is not always a test. Sometimes it's clarity forming. Sometimes it's interest fading. And sometimes it's simply life. But panic turns every possibility into the same outcome. Loss of leverage, loss of attraction, loss of self-respect. Attraction never returns because you try harder. It returns when there's absence. That's the paradox most men resist, because it feels counterintuitive. You were taught that effort fixes problems, that persistence proves value, that if you just show up more, love will stabilize. But romantic attraction doesn't respond to effort, it responds to space. When you stop rewarding distance with increased attention, one of 2 things happens, and both outcomes work in your favor. If she's genuinely interested, she recalibrates. She notices the absence. The imbalance corrects itself. Her effort rises to meet yours. Consistency returns, not because you chased it, but because you gave it room to surface. If she doesn't come back, then the truth was already there. Your boundary didn't cause the loss. It revealed it faster. This is where men get stuck emotionally. They think, if I pull back, I'll lose her. What they don't see is that they were already losing themselves trying to keep her close. Never reward distance with effort. Effort given in response to withdrawal trains imbalance. It teaches her that she can reduce investment while you increase it. And once that lesson is learned, attraction doesn't recover. Absence does something effort never can. It restores polarity. It returns control to your side of the equation. It reminds her that access to you is not guaranteed. And if she chooses not to step forward when space is created, then you didn't lose a woman who wanted you. You stopped chasing an illusion that required you to abandon your grounding. That's the quiet power of this boundary. It doesn't manipulate outcomes, it clarifies them. You didn't lose her. You stopped chasing what was never fully yours. What you've just learned isn't a collection of dating tips. It's a system. 5 boundaries, 1 framework, 1 purpose, protecting your value before someone else decides what it's worth. These boundaries are not about controlling women. They're not about manipulation. And they're definitely not about turning cold or disconnected. They exist for one reason only: to keep you from losing yourself while trying to keep someone else. When you control financial access, you protect leverage. When you shut down disrespect early, you protect dignity. When you guard your time, you protect direction. When you pace emotional intimacy, you protect polarity. When you stop chasing withdrawal, you protect self-respect. Together, they form a filter. Women who are drawn to structure, strength, and self-control will feel safer with you. Women who were only comfortable when you were overgiving, over-available, and over-invested will quietly disappear. That's not loneliness, that's clarity. Boundaries don't make you harder to love. They make it possible for the right person to love you without you shrinking to earn it. They ensure that when a woman chooses you, she's choosing the man you actually are, not the version that sacrifices himself to be tolerated. And if there's one truth I want you to walk away with, it's this: you don't gain power by demanding more from women. You gain power by requiring more from yourself. If this resonated, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe. Stay here. This channel exists for men who are done being confused, drained, and second-guessing their worth. Like the video. Share it with the man who keeps giving too much and getting less. And leave a comment. Tell me which boundary hit you the hardest. This channel isn't here to comfort you. It's here to keep you from losing yourself. Every man has a breaking point. The moment he finally decides that peace is worth more than proximity. That love without respect isn't love, it's debt. You don't have to keep proving your worth to someone who keeps testing it. And you don't have to forgive what destroys you just to feel loved, because real strength isn't endurance, it's boundaries. In this video, we're going to expose the 10 things you should never forgive a woman for in a relationship. And more importantly, how walking away from them might be the first time you ever chose yourself. There's a hidden rule no one tells you about relationships. The one who fears loss the most always has the least power. That's why manipulators thrive on your forgiveness. It gives them proof that you won't leave. But here's the twist. The real leverage isn't in love, it's in boundaries. Once you understand that, everything changes. If you've ever wanted to understand how emotional power really works, like this video and subscribe now. Comment yes if you've ever stayed silent just to keep the peace, or no if you've already learned to walk away. Because the first thing I'm about to uncover isn't about her lies, it's about how easily men let them slide. Number 1. Chronic lies and alternate realities. It never starts with a big lie. It begins with something small, tiny enough that you brush it off. She says she was home when she wasn't. Says a message was from a friend when it wasn't. The price of the dress. The story about where she went. Details so minor you'd feel ridiculous calling them out. That's exactly the point. The first lie is a test. Not of your intelligence, but of your boundaries. A woman who lies habitually isn't trying to hide mistakes. She's crafting a world where she decides what's real. Every deception that goes unchecked becomes proof that you'll choose peace over truth. And once she learns that lesson, the lies evolve. They move from white lies to full-blown fabrications, secret accounts, double lives, rewritten timelines that make you question your memory. You stop confronting her because it's easier to doubt yourself than to accept what she's done. That's how manipulation begins, by exhausting your sense of reality until you surrender it entirely. The goal isn't simply to deceive you, it's to make you depend on her version of events. You'll start defending her lies to other people. You'll start lying to yourself, telling yourself she means well. That's how she wins. Because once she decides that lying to you is acceptable, She's decided that your truth doesn't matter. And when your truth no longer matters, you're not in a relationship. You're in her illusion. Number 2. Public humiliation disguised as humor. It sounds harmless at first, a story told at dinner, a teasing remark in front of friends, a little laugh at your expense. She says, "Relax, it's just a joke." Everyone laughs, except you. You smile to keep the peace, but deep down, something twists. Because you know what really happened. She wasn't trying to be funny. She was trying to remind everyone who's in control. When a woman repeatedly mocks you in public, your habits, your mistakes, your ambitions, she's not building connection. She's broadcasting hierarchy. Each laugh she earns from others is another brick in the wall of dominance she's constructing over you. And when you confront her about it, she flips the script. You're too sensitive, or you can't take a joke. Now you're not only the punchline, you're the problem. Psychologically, this is contempt disguised as intimacy. Contempt doesn't scream. It smirks. It kills slowly, stripping your dignity one funny story at a time. Once she learns she can mock you without consequence, respect begins to die. And when respect dies, love follows. A woman who loves you protects your image in public. She guards your reputation because she values what you represent together. A woman who ridicules you seeks power, not partnership. So the next time she turns you into the joke to make herself look superior, don't laugh with her. Understand what's really happening. She's not sharing humor, she's sharing contempt. And once a woman laughs at you in public, the relationship is already dying in private. Number 3, emotional manipulation and guilt traps. She doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't threaten. She simply makes you feel like a bad man for having boundaries. If you really loved me, you don't care about me anymore. I guess I'm just not enough for you. Every word is designed to twist your compassion into compliance. You're not arguing with logic. You're negotiating with guilt. Emotional manipulation is one of the most sophisticated forms of control because it hides behind the illusion of love. She studies your triggers, your fears, your need to protect. She knows exactly which button to press to make you fold. The tears, the trembling voice, the silence that punishes, it's all part of the performance. And because you're kind, because you want peace, you surrender. You stop saying no. You start apologizing for things you didn't do. What she's really doing is teaching you that her emotions are your responsibility, that your worth is measured by how well you can fix her mood. And once she conditions you to accept that burden, you lose the right to your own feelings. You exist to regulate hers. That isn't love. That's emotional servitude. A woman who truly loves you won't weaponize your empathy. She won't use her pain to control your behavior. She'll communicate, not manipulate. So remember this. Love that demands guilt isn't love. It's leverage. And the moment you start feeling guilty for protecting your peace, you're no longer in a relationship. You're in captivity. Love doesn't require submission. If her love needs you to feel guilty, it isn't love. Number 4, boundary violation disguised as intimacy. She says it's because she loves you. That's why she checks your phone, your messages, your location. That's why she asks where you've been, who you've talked to, why you didn't answer fast enough. She'll call it transparency. She'll call it closeness. But what it really is, control dressed as affection. A woman who violates your privacy isn't looking for connection. She's looking for confirmation that she owns you. Every time she crosses a boundary and you let it slide, she learns that your autonomy is negotiable. What begins as curiosity turns into interrogation. What starts as, "I just worry about you," becomes, "I don't trust you." And soon, you'll find yourself explaining every move, every call, every minute, as if you're the one on trial. In healthy relationships, intimacy and individuality coexist. You can be deeply connected and still have private thoughts, personal space, and independence. But when someone equates love with constant access, that isn't intimacy. It's surveillance. You stop being a partner and start being property. This kind of behavior corrodes your sense of self. You begin to shrink, editing your actions to avoid accusations. You stop sharing the truth because honesty will only be used against you. And eventually, you lose the quiet confidence of being your own man. Love never demands surrender of identity. Love respects the walls that protect your peace. So remember, a woman who doesn't respect your boundaries doesn't love you. She wants to own you. And once ownership replaces respect, love doesn't live there anymore. Number 5. Physical or property aggression. It starts with something you can excuse. A slammed door, a broken glass, a shove during an argument. She cries afterward, says she just got overwhelmed, that it will never happen again. You want to believe her, because the alternative means admitting you're no longer safe. But make no mistake, aggression is not an accident. It's a message. It says, I will use fear to control you. Violence in any form, against you, your belongings, or your space, is the purest expression of dominance. It isn't passion. It isn't frustration. It's a power play. People don't lose control randomly. They choose when, where, and with whom to explode. She doesn't throw things at her boss. She doesn't shove her friends. She only does it to you because she knows you'll stay. And that's how it escalates. The first push becomes a grab. The grab becomes a slap, then a punch through the wall near your head. Every time you forgive, she learns the same lesson. Fear works. It keeps you quiet. It keeps you compliant. Until one day, it's not a wall. It's you. When love turns physical, it stops being love. There is no justification, no emotional context that redeems it. Real love protects. It never threatens. So if she's breaking things to make a point, understand what she's really saying. She's willing to destroy what's yours to remind you who has control. If she can break objects today, she'll break you tomorrow. Walk away before she does. Number 6, financial control and exploitation. Love doesn't justify imbalance, but in toxic relationships, money becomes the silent leash. It starts subtly. She forgets her wallet, borrows and never pays back, says you're better with money anyway. Then the narrative changes. Suddenly your income is our money, but hers is her freedom. She'll call it sharing. She'll call it teamwork. But it's not partnership if one person is carrying all the weight. Financial control isn't about bills or budgets. It's about power. The moment you become the only provider, or worse, the one being drained, the balance shifts. Every purchase turns into a test of loyalty. Every disagreement becomes a guilt trip about how ungrateful you are. After everything I do for you, you start second-guessing your own spending while she feels entitled to yours. That's not love. That's control disguised as dependence. And when she sabotages your career, discourages your ambition, or subtly mocks your goals, understand the strategy. The less you have, the less you can leave. Financial dependence keeps people trapped longer than fear ever could. Because when she holds the wallet, she holds your options, your ability to walk away, your independence, your dignity. Money isn't about greed. It's about freedom. It represents your time, your effort, your choices. Everything that makes you an individual. A woman who truly loves you won't want to own your freedom. She'll want to build alongside it. So don't mistake financial exploitation for intimacy. It's not romance, it's leverage. And when she controls it, she controls you. Number 7, isolation from friends and family. It never happens overnight. It begins with little comments. Your friends don't really get us. Your family doesn't like me. You're different when you're around them. At first, it sounds like insecurity. You reassure her, promise balance. But soon, every outing becomes a negotiation. Every visit feels like betrayal. Until one day, you realize you haven't seen your friends in months, and she's the only voice in your life that's left. Isolation is the most effective control tactic because it's invisible. No one can warn you when no one is allowed near you. She'll say she just wants more time together. She'll claim others are jealous, negative, or toxic. But what she's really doing is cutting you off from your reality check, the people who'd notice the manipulation before you do. Once you lose your outside connections, you lose perspective. You stop hearing the truth because the only feedback you get is hers. And when her voice becomes your entire world, her version of reality becomes law. That's how emotional captivity works, not with chains, but with silence. Healthy love connects you deeper to the world, not further from it. The right woman will want to meet your friends, know your family, and stand beside you in your community, not replace it with herself. When you find yourself explaining why you don't see anyone anymore, that's not love protecting you. That's control isolating you. And when she becomes your only world, you stop existing in your own. Number 8. Infidelity and betrayal. Cheating isn't an accident. It's not something that just happened. It's a chain of deliberate decisions to cross a boundary, to deceive, to risk everything sacred between you for something temporary. It begins long before the act itself. With a text not deleted, a look held too long, a conversation that drifts where it shouldn't. And every step she knows what she's doing. She just believes she won't get caught. Or worse, that you'll forgive her if she is. Infidelity is not about passion. It's about entitlement. It's the belief that her desires matter more than your trust, that her impulses are worth the pain they cause. And when caught, the script is always the same. We were going through a rough patch. You weren't giving me what I needed. It didn't mean anything. But every excuse only reinforces the truth. She chose selfishness over respect. Forgiveness won't restore what was broken, because infidelity doesn't just destroy trust. It rewrites it. Once she's crossed that line, you'll never again believe her words the same way. Every text will carry suspicion. Every silence will echo. You'll live in a state of quiet vigilance, guarding yourself from someone who should have been guarding you. A woman who betrays you has already told you who she is. Someone willing to risk your dignity for her convenience. And the hardest part isn't losing her. It's realizing she was never who you thought she was. Cheating isn't a mistake. It's a message. Believe it. Number 9. Weaponizing your vulnerabilities. It always starts in moments of closeness. You open up because you trust her. You tell her about the things you've survived, the fears you hide, the insecurities you never share. You believe you're building intimacy. What you don't realize is that she's quietly taking notes. Then one day, in the heat of an argument, she fires the first shot. The very pain you confessed in confidence becomes her weapon. Your childhood trauma, your failures, the mistakes you told her because you thought love meant safety. Now they're ammunition, fired back at you with surgical precision to win an argument, to make you feel small, to break your defenses. This isn't passion. This isn't loss of control. This is strategy. It's psychological warfare disguised as vulnerability. Once she learns that exposing your wounds gets results, she'll do it again. Because nothing gives a manipulator more power than the ability to make you bleed with your own truth. The cost of this betrayal is deeper than anger. It's silence. You stop sharing. You stop trusting. You start guarding every thought, every emotion. The relationship may look alive, but it's emotionally dead, because intimacy cannot exist where safety has been violated. A woman who uses your pain against you doesn't understand it. She exploits it. Real love shelters your wounds. It never weaponizes them. So the next time someone turns your confessions into knives, don't make excuses for her cruelty. Once she uses your pain against you, she's no longer your partner. She's your enemy. Number 10. The abuse apology love bombing cycle. This one is the most dangerous because it feels like love. She hurts you with words, with contempt, with control, then rushes in to fix it. Tears, apologies, promises to change. Suddenly she's affectionate again, cooking your favorite meal, whispering how much she needs you. For a moment it feels like peace. You tell yourself it's over. You want to believe it's different this time. But it's not. It's just the calm between storms. This is how trauma bonding works. The human brain confuses relief with love. After pain, kindness feels euphoric. You start craving her affection not because it's good, but because it temporarily stops the bad. You become addicted to the highs she controls, and she knows it. That's why the cycle always restarts. The next outburst, the next insult, the next apology. Each round, shorter, sharper, crueler, until you can't tell where love ends and damage begins. This isn't love evolving. It's control tightening. She's not trying to heal the wound. She's keeping it open, just clean enough for you to stay. Because as long as you're waiting for the good version of her to return, you'll never leave. Healthy relationships don't require recovery periods. They don't need grand gestures to erase harm. They don't destroy you one day and adore you the next. So don't mistake the apology for transformation. Don't mistake affection for safety. She's not changing. She's resetting the trap. Forgiving the unforgivable doesn't make you noble. It makes you disappear. Every time you excuse a lie, a humiliation, a manipulation, a betrayal, you chip away at the man you used to be. You tell yourself it's compassion, understanding, maturity. But what it really is surrender, piece by piece, until there's nothing left to defend. The truth is, you can't love a woman into respecting you. You can't fix someone who finds power in your pain. You can't negotiate with someone who thrives on your forgiveness. Real love doesn't demand endless tolerance. It doesn't test how much you can endure before you break. Real love values your peace, not your suffering. If you stay with someone who crosses these lines, you don't just lose trust, you lose yourself. You become a shadow of the man you were, always apologizing, always explaining, always waiting for the next apology that will never mean anything. Your silence becomes complicity. Your endurance becomes permission. And eventually, she won't even need to ask for forgiveness because you'll already be giving it. But leaving? That's different. Leaving isn't failure. It's recognition. It's choosing yourself over chaos, self-respect over illusion. It's reclaiming the time and energy you've been giving to someone who never deserved it. And once you walk away, something powerful happens. You remember who you were before you started shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. So, if this message woke something up in you, don't stay silent. Comment below and tell your story, not to shame anyone, but to help another man recognize himself before it's too late. Share this with someone who's forgetting his worth, and subscribe, because this space isn't about hate or bitterness. It's where men remember who they are. You don't need to forgive the unforgivable.